There's a moment every December that feels almost magical. It's quiet, almost imperceptible, like the soft hum of something ancient waking up inside your chest. Maybe it happens when you see the first string of lights appear on a balcony. Maybe while sipping something warm on a chilly evening. Or while hearing the opening notes of a familiar holiday song you've known since childhood. Whatever the trigger is, it always feels the same. Something inside you stirs. Not the adult you, the one who manages responsibilities, carries roles, and holds everything together. No. It's a much softer, younger part of you. A part you may not have heard from in a very long time. This is the voice of your inner child. And for many people, this season, Christmas, New Year, the end of the year, is when that voice becomes impossible to ignore. Today, in this episode, I want to take you on a gentle, deeply personal journey. A journey not toward who you think you should be for the holidays, but toward the person within you who has been waiting for years to be acknowledged. A journey that begins with noticing the stir, the whisper, the tug inside your chest, and slowly, lovingly following it back home. This episode has 3 parts, and each part builds upon the last. If you stay with me until the end, you'll experience a complete emotional arc. From awakening, to understanding, to release and peace. So let's begin part 1. The awakening. Why the holidays stir something inside you. Every holiday season, people feel things they don't expect. The world becomes brighter. Lights, songs, gatherings, and yet, inside, you may feel heavier, more tender, more emotional than usual. You might even feel confused by the intensity of your reactions. But there's a reason for this. The holidays are not just a season. They are an emotional mirror. They reflect everything you've lived through. The warmth you once received, the warmth you didn't, the memories that held you, and the ones that broke you. And whether you realize it or not, your inner child is the one standing in front of that mirror. When you feel a sudden wave of nostalgia, that's your inner child remembering something sweet. When you feel a sudden heaviness, that's your inner child remembering something painful. And when you feel a longing you can't explain, that's your inner child saying, I'm still here. Please don't forget me. The subtle signs your inner child is waking up. Most people don't consciously think, my inner child is activated. But the signs are there, especially this time of year. Here are some examples you may recognize. You find yourself longing for simplicity. Quiet nights, warm drinks, slow mornings. You feel unexpectedly emotional watching children play, or hearing a certain song. You feel a hint of loneliness even in a room full of people. You feel sensitive, nostalgic, or easily overwhelmed. You crave comfort, emotional, physical, or spiritual. You feel a desire to pause, breathe, and soften. These are not random moods. They are messages. Your inner child is gently knocking on the door of your awareness, asking to be acknowledged. Because the truth is, the holidays bring us closer to who we used to be. Before we learn to protect ourselves, before we learn to pretend, before we learn to perform. And in that closeness, a kind of truth rises to the surface. The truth we often avoid. There is a moment in adulthood when you realize something quietly heartbreaking. You grew up so fast that you forgot to bring your child self along with you. You learned to be strong, responsible, calm, capable. You learned to show up for others, to manage emotions, to function even when tired or hurting. But in the process, a softer part of you didn't get to grow with you. It simply hid. And it's been hiding for years. For some, the hiding began the first time your feelings were dismissed or ignored. For others, it was when you were told you were too sensitive, too emotional, or too dramatic. For many, it was when the house was chaotic, unpredictable, or emotionally cold, and being small felt dangerous. Whatever the reason, the child inside you learned one thing. If I want to be loved, I must shrink. If I want to be safe, I must hide. If I want to belong, I must perform. And so you grew. But a part of you stayed frozen in time. Now, every December, the sights, scents, sounds of the holidays act like emotional time machines. They bring you back to moments your adult mind has forgotten, but your emotional body still remembers. And your inner child whispers, please don't leave me behind again. Why this season is an invitation. Think of the holidays as a doorway. Not a grand doorway, but a small, warm, softly lit doorway, one you might miss if you're rushing. Behind that door is the part of you that still believes in magic, awe, wonder, and tenderness. The part of you that remembers how to feel without apologizing. You don't have to walk through that door all at once. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to be brave or strong. You simply need to be willing. Because this season is not truly about celebrations, decorations, or traditions. It's about emotional return. Returning to the parts of yourself that have been waiting for you. The holidays ask a quiet question. What if peace doesn't come from doing more, but from remembering who you were before life taught you to forget? The real reason inner peace feels possible this time of year. Have you ever wondered why, despite the chaos, December still feels like a chance for new beginnings? It's because something in this season slows you down, even if only internally. It asks you to look inward, to reflect, to release, to hope. Your inner child loves the season not because of gifts or festivities, but because the world temporarily softens. It becomes gentler, more sentimental, more emotional, more symbolic. And that softness allows your inner child to rise. Inner peace is not a mental decision. It is the natural result of reunion, when your adult self and your child self finally sit at the same emotional table. In this season, your heart becomes porous enough to let that reunion begin. You become open enough to hear the whispers, tender enough to feel the ache, quiet enough to listen to what's been buried. And that's the beginning of healing. A moment of recognition. Before we close part 1, I want you to pause for a moment. Not to do anything, just to notice. Is there a feeling, however faint, that is rising in your chest as you listen? A warmth, an ache, a softness, a familiarity? If so, that's the inner child. They are recognizing that you are finally paying attention. Your presence is the thing they've been waiting for. Where we go next? Part 1 was about awakening. About understanding why the holidays stir emotions that feel deeper than logic. In Part 2, we go into the heart of the journey. Why your inner child carries so much unspoken pain. How holiday expectations trigger old wounds. What emotional patterns repeat every year without you noticing. And the surprising truth. Your inner child doesn't need to be fixed. They need something far simpler. Part 2 is where transformation begins. And when you're ready, we'll continue. If Part 1 was the gentle awakening, this part is the honest middle. The place where we turn toward the wounds you've carried without realizing it. The place where understanding begins to dissolve shame. Where compassion begins to take the place of self-judgment. And where the inner child, long ignored or silenced, is finally allowed to be seen clearly. This is the part most people skip. In their healing, in their emotional life, in their relationships. But if you're here, listening, staying with yourself through this moment, it means you're ready. Ready to look beneath the surface of your reactions, your holiday emotions, your patterns, your discomfort. Ready to understand where they actually come from. So let's begin. The inner child's hidden burdens. Your inner child did not disappear when you grew up. They simply retreated into the corners of your emotional world, carrying memories, fears, beliefs, and patterns that your adult self never had time to unpack. Most people think childhood wounds are about big events, trauma, loss, chaos. And yes, those shape us. But often, the deeper wounds come from the quiet things. The subtle things. The emotional absences rather than the dramatic presences. Sometimes the wound is not what happened. Sometimes it's what didn't happen. Maybe no one listened. Maybe no one understood you. Maybe no one comforted you when you cried. Maybe your joy wasn't noticed. Maybe you were asked to grow up too fast. Maybe you were shamed for needing help. Maybe you were made to be the responsible one. Maybe you had to be strong because nobody else was. These small ruptures accumulate. And the child within you doesn't have the language to explain what hurts. So they carry it instead. Your adult self learned to function. To adapt. To perform. But your child self held on to the emotional imprints. And this season, the holidays, is when those imprints glow like invisible ink held to a light. Holiday expectations and the hidden repetition of your past. Every December, the world reenacts certain rituals. Gathering, connecting, celebrating, expressing love, spending time with family. On the surface it looks simple. But underneath, the emotional patterns of your childhood quietly resurface. You may notice things like, why do I feel lonely, even with people around? Why do I feel guilty for not being festive enough? Why do I feel anxious about gatherings or reunions? Why does the pressure to be joyful feel overwhelming? Why do I feel like I'm failing at something invisible? Those reactions are not adult reactions. They're echoes. Your inner child is reliving the emotional atmosphere of your early years. The pressure, the tension, the longing, the hope, the disappointment. Whatever emotional climate you grew up in, your body remembers it. If your holidays were chaotic, your inner child feels the same instability now. If your holidays were lonely, your inner child feels the old emptiness rise again. If your holidays were filled with pressure to behave, to perform, to smile, your inner child feels that tightening in the chest. If your holidays were magical, but life later took away your sense of wonder, your inner child may ache for something that feels lost. This is why holiday triggers feel so intense, because they're not rooted in the present. They're rooted in memory. Why you feel too much this time of year. One of the most common experiences adults have in December is feeling too emotional, too sensitive, too nostalgic, too overwhelmed, too lonely, too tender. But here's the truth. You're not feeling too much. You're finally feeling what has always been there. The pace of the holidays slows down the adult armor just enough for the stored emotions of your childhood to rise. Maybe you find yourself crying unexpectedly, or longing for something you can't name, or feeling disconnected even when surrounded by people, or craving comfort you can't seem to give yourself, or feeling resentment toward obligations, roles, and expectations. These emotions are not wrong or embarrassing. They are communications. Your inner child is not trying to ruin your holiday. They are trying to be heard. They show up now because this season is emotionally symbolic. The softness, the nostalgia, the rituals. All of it opens the door for buried feelings to surface. So instead of judging yourself for feeling deeply, try this. Ask yourself, what is this feeling trying to tell me? You might be surprised by the answers. The holiday triggers you don't notice, but your inner child does. There are certain moments during the holidays that activate childhood wounds almost instantly. For example, walking into a room filled with relatives and feeling suddenly small. Hearing someone raise their voice and feeling your chest tighten. Watching other families laugh and feeling a pang of jealousy or grief. Seeing parents comfort their children and feeling something inside you ache. Being asked personal questions and feeling exposed or pressured. Feeling invisible in a group conversation. Feeling guilty for wanting space or rest. Feeling ashamed for not having the perfect holiday. Your adult self might brush these off as mood swings or stress. But your inner child is reliving an emotional memory. That's what it felt like when I wasn't seen. That's what it felt like when I had to be perfect. That's what it felt like when adults were unpredictable. That's what it felt like when I wanted love but didn't know how to ask for it. This season does not create wounds. It simply illuminates the ones that already exist. And that illumination is not a punishment. It's an invitation. What your inner child actually wants from you. People often think healing the inner child means fixing the past, changing the story, overwriting the pain. But the inner child doesn't want that. They want something far simpler and far more powerful. They want acknowledgement. They want your presence, your attention, your emotional availability. Your willingness to feel what they feel without rushing them. Your willingness to be with them instead of silencing them. Your inner child has been alone with their pain for long enough. They don't need you to be perfect. They don't need you to know exactly what to do. They simply need you to stop abandoning yourself the way others once abandoned you. You don't heal by forcing yourself to be joyful. You heal by allowing yourself to be authentic. And authenticity begins with listening. The tender truth you may not realize. The inner child you carry is not broken. They are not dramatic. They are not weak. They are not a problem to solve. They are the part of you that still feels honestly. They are the part of you that still remembers what mattered. They are the part of you that still believes in softness, wonder, and love. If anything, they are the most human part of you. They have been carrying your emotional truth while your adult self carried your responsibilities. This holiday season, you have a chance to finally bridge the gap between the two of you. The child who felt deeply and the adult who learned to hide those feelings. And the moment they meet is the moment inner peace becomes possible. Part 2 was about honesty. About looking directly at the wounds, patterns, and emotional triggers that rise this time of year. In Part 3, we move into release, reunion, and peace. We've awakened the inner child. We've explored their wounds, their memories, their triggers. Now we arrive at the heart of this journey. The release. Not the dramatic release you see in movies. Not the kind that feels like a sudden breakthrough or a moment of revelation. But a softer release, the kind that happens quietly, gently, like frost melting under morning sun. If you imagine your inner child sitting with you right now, perhaps on a quiet winter night, wrapped in a blanket, looking at you with cautious eyes, this part of the journey is about what you say next. How you hold them. How you reassure them. How you show them that the safety they've been searching for is finally here, in you. This is where inner peace begins. Inner peace comes from reunion, not perfection. Most people misunderstand inner peace. They imagine it as a state of calm, silence, stability, a place where nothing hurts and nothing overwhelms them. But true peace is not the absence of emotion. It is the presence of compassion. It's the moment you stop fighting yourself. The moment you stop abandoning yourself. The moment you stop demanding perfection from your own humanity. Peace doesn't come from controlling your feelings. It comes from allowing them to exist without shame. And so when your inner child rises with fear or tenderness, or longing, or grief, the goal isn't to fix them, suppress them, or silence them. The goal is simply to sit beside them and say, "You don't have to go through this alone anymore." This is the reunion that softens everything. How to speak to your inner child this season. Your inner child doesn't speak the language of logic. They speak the language of emotion, presence, tone, safety. When they show up through sadness, overwhelm, loneliness, nostalgia, they are really saying, "I'm scared. I'm tired. I feel alone. I miss being cared for. I want softness. I want connection. I want rest." And your adult self finally has the chance to respond. Here is what your inner child longs to hear from you. "I'm here. I'm listening. Your feelings make sense. You're not too much. You don't have to be brave right now. You're safe with me. You're allowed to rest. I won't leave you again." When you speak to yourself this way, gently, consistently, something inside you shifts. The tension softens. The heaviness loosens. The fear quiets. This is the inner peace the holidays hint at but cannot give you from the outside. It is the peace you create within yourself. Letting go of old holiday expectations. You don't need to have the perfect holiday. The perfect mood. The perfect family dynamic. The perfect decorations. The perfect mindset. The perfect memories. The perfect schedule. You don't need to be the one who holds everything together. You are allowed to have a holiday that looks different from what others expect, a holiday that honors your emotional truth instead of suppressing it. Here are some holiday expectations you can gently release. You don't have to be cheerful to be worthy of love. You don't have to be productive to feel meaningful. You don't have to be surrounded by people to feel connected. You don't have to explain your feelings to justify them. You don't have to recreate the past to have a good future. The pressure to perform the season, to look happy, act festive, feel joyful, has weighed on your inner child for too long. Releasing that pressure is a gift you can give both of you. You are allowed to have a quiet holiday. A slow holiday. A reflective holiday. A healing holiday. You are allowed to do December and January in the way that brings you peace, not guilt. Creating emotional safety within yourself. If you've never felt emotionally safe in your early years, it might feel strange to offer safety to yourself now. But emotional safety is simply the trust that your feelings won't be punished, dismissed, or ignored. You create this safety through small, consistent acts. When you pause instead of pushing yourself. When you let yourself cry without apology. When you speak softly to yourself during overwhelm. When you choose rest without guilt. When you honor what you need before what others expect. When you let yourself feel instead of suppressing. Each of these moments tells your inner child, "You matter to me. I will take care of you now." And slowly, they begin to trust you. Your body relaxes. Your anxious thoughts quiet. Your emotions soften. Your heart steadies. This is the foundation of inner peace. Not perfection. Not control. Not permanent calm. But self-trust. Ending the year with softness instead of pressure. The end of the year often comes with expectations, resolutions, achievements, self-evaluation. But what if, this year, you didn't measure your worth by what you accomplished? What if you measured it by how gently you treated yourself? What if the goal this year wasn't to finish strong, but to finish softly? What if the ending wasn't about proving something, but about coming home to yourself? Instead of pushing yourself to do more, be more, fix more, you can allow yourself to slow down, breathe, reflect, and integrate. You can end the year with compassion, not criticism. You can end the year by saying to yourself, I made it through things I didn't think I could. I held myself together on days that felt impossible. I learned more about who I am and who I want to be. I am tired, but I am growing. And I deserve a gentle ending. Your inner child deserves a gentle ending too. Beginning the new year feeling whole, not exhausted. A new year is not a command. It is not an obligation. It is not a demand for reinvention or productivity. A new year is simply a doorway, one you can walk through slowly, intentionally, with grace. You don't need to become a new person. You need to become more of who you truly are. You don't need force. You need presence. You don't need resolutions that shame you. You need intentions that nourish you. Maybe your intention for the new year is softness. Maybe it's rest. Maybe it's truth. Maybe it's connection. Maybe it's healing. Maybe it's listening to your inner child more than ever before. The new year doesn't need a stronger version of you. It needs a kinder one. All of you, the adult you, the healing you, and the child within you, are invited to walk into the new year together. United instead of split apart. That is what wholeness feels like. You've come with me through a 3-part journey, from awakening your inner child, to understanding their wounds, to releasing the pressure and offering them the peace they've always deserved. This is not the end. This is the beginning of a new relationship with yourself. If this episode touched you, helped you breathe deeper, made you feel less alone, I invite you to take the next step. I created a free book called Coming Home for the Holidays: A Gentle Inner Child Awakening. It expands everything we explored today, with stories, reflections, and practices to help you reconnect with your inner child throughout the entire holiday season. You can download it for free. The link is in the description. And if you want more content like this, more guided reflections, more emotional healing talks, more inner child support, please subscribe to the channel. Like this episode if it resonated with you. Share it with someone who might need a moment of softness this season. Your support helps this channel grow, and it helps this message reach more hearts that need it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying with yourself. And thank you for giving your inner child a place to belong again. I'll see you in the next episode.